All right. Double check everything before we start. Good morning, everybody. I might look a little fuzzy, but that's only because I was having a little bit of technical difficulty this morning. So I had to use I use my little Google Chrome, and it doesn't really show my webcam that well. So please bear with me with that. But good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday morning fundamentals with Kire. That is me. Um, in this fundamentals class, we do go over the basics of art and tattooable images. Um, and this month of August, we've been doing anatomy alongside Ricardo Sturdivant on his Tuesday morning classes and alongside Guy Atchison in his Monday evening exercises as well. So last week we did the Loomis method, and I think I'm echoing somewhere. So if I am, someone tell me. Um, so last week we did the Loomis method, and that pretty much revolved around figuring out the fundamentals of proportions with heads, going based off of thirds, where the eyes sit, where the nose sits, and then where the mouth sits in their in their third panels. Um, your homework was to do basically structuralizations of that, or if you have been practicing the Loomis method, to do full skull renditions using that Loomis method. So this morning, I do not have my coffee. I have my Capri Sun because I forgot to hit brew on my coffee pot. So I'm a little tired. And let's just double check something real quick because I do hear myself everywhere. Let's see, maybe that's better. Maybe no. Is it? No. Oh, wait, maybe it's coming from my iPad too. Oh, no, it's not. If I'm echoing, somebody tell them. But other than that, we will continue as stated. Oh, also, I do have to keep this class quite much shorter than usual. We will keep this to within an hour. So I did post the Zoom link already up now, so it gives you guys an opportunity to jump in now rather than later on. And all that's, oh, I see why I'm echoing. It's because I have my headphones plugged into the wrong computer. Come on, Kier. Let's try this. Let's try this again. My apologies, guys. All right, so let's. I'm just gonna get myself screen shared here, and we'll start with everybody's homework that you guys turned in. It was Kyle, and then we have an apple that was posted a couple days ago by our new friend Nikita. She's out of the Boston area of Massachusetts. We've been going back and forth on Instagram. Wonderful artist. So we'll talk about her apple that she did today, or not today, but that she posted a couple days ago. And let's see here. All right. So this was Kyle's. Um, what an amazing skull study, Kyle. Congratulations. Very proud of you. So, what I would say for this, Kyle, if I were to nitpick, because that's really anytime I'm saying anything for critique wise, you guys don't have to listen to me. I'm just here. I'm just some Joe Schmo out of Western Massachusetts. I'm nobody really, but so don't think that you have to attach to all the advice that I say. but I'm just going to point out a couple things that I'm seeing myself that may help you value-wise, because as far as structuralization, this is very well done, Kyle. Like, good job. You could tell that you do skulls often, and I know that this is part of your style, so um, I am not too concerned with you about this. Um, but with that being said, let me uh, let me point out a couple things. So I think, and this is something that I have to do as well, when it comes to selecting your values and applying those values, okay, I want you to do more of what you did on this top skull here. You see how you like, oh, you mean hidden layer? Oh, you see how you're doing it like right here, all this that's happening right here, okay? That's what should be happening more often. And let me actually get Kyle in here while we are critiquing his stuff. So while Kyle pops in here, I'll just continue with what I was saying here. So the values that you have selected here on the bottom are this is correct. Like, that's how I want to see everybody, including myself, starting to select their values in the way that Ricardo kind of does it, where he basically selects his values based off of the shapes that he sees within his composition. So right on this corner, you did that correctly. If you see that here, you copy that same motion here. Okay, I want to see that happen with this bottom skull that's right here. You can apply the same mannerism, right? Because you can see this clear value that's happening right here. If you took like one value, right, like if you took like a 5 or a 6 on that value scale, and then you literally applied it in that same motion in a more even tone, you could see a little bit more definition, because then you can see that this same value tone carries down into the nose and into the side of the face, and that really determines where your light source is coming from. And then your viewer doesn't have to guess every 2 seconds of like, where's their light source coming from, like where is their light happening. Not saying that that's what the viewer concentrates on. They more concentrate on, hey, is this a skull or not? But to make it a little bit more easier in defining those things, this is the way that you can do it. Because if you start to add that value down, you can already see that it's separating your lights and your darks, which I have the exact same problem. More for my color work, I like to use like 50 different shades of color in one composition, when really I should be picking, 3 tones to match whatever values I'm trying to go for. But as far as overall shape, like outer silhouette of this skull here, fantastic job. Like, I don't think I have really anything to say as far as proportion goes. You can tell that you practice these often, and I know you said last time that you studied in school, and you were taught this sort of method, and it very much shows. So great job, Kyle. Hats off to you, buddy. And good morning. I like your backdrop today.
Thank you. I switched everything around, so I got a little bit better background going on.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that. Like, sometimes you get in those cleaning modes, and I was thinking about turning my whole desk to face this tapestry that's behind me. But as you can tell, I did not get to that.
It was one of those things. It was like, it's bothering me. I should just do it.
Yeah, exactly. But hold on one second. I'm just trying. There we go. So we have our new friend here that did our apple. Here.
Oh, wow.
What a cute apple.
I love that.
I know, right? Okay, so when I first saw this, obviously I thought to myself, okay, she knows her values. She knows exactly where she's supposed to be placing them. She understands her light source. I think
okay? And this is once again just nitpicking. This is just my advice. You don't have to listen to it. I'm just going to point out a couple things, and maybe it can resonate with you, maybe not. All right. So if I were to nitpick this, right? If your light source, let me make sure I'm on the right layer. If your light source is coming from this direction, okay, your cast shadow is not going to come out this way. Okay, this does make sense. Okay, this cast shadow does make sense, which to the viewer they may not recognize at first sense. But as for me as an artist, the first thing I noticed was that, okay, if your white highlight was somewhere over here, okay, then it would make sense as to why your light source was falling behind it. Okay, but since your light source is coming from this direction, your cast shadow should actually fall right behind it. And I think in I think it was my cylinder class or my cube class, I talk about how you can cast a shadow based off of where your light source is coming from. And so let's do that this way. So let's say, okay, let's say here, you can't really see it because you got this vignetta going on, but light source is on the top right-hand corner, let's just say, right? Then if I made this cast shadow on it, you can see directly where that cast shadow should be laying for it to make sense. And that's a cool trick for you to help you out with this. And following that, and I know I talk about this in that Apple class, and furthermore, for those basic fundamentals, adding an ambient occlusion along your edge of your apple will give it a little bit more depth. And right now, as I see it, right, this value that's here is black. And the value that's down here, which should be your lightest light, is black as well. And I think I make it kind of clear that your terminator line is not absolute black. It still has some sort of value to it, only because some light is hitting it. Even though it is the barrier between your light family and your dark family, there is still going to be some sort of value, whether it's like a 7 or an 8 or even like a 9. Like, it's not absolute black, okay? But to fix that, you don't have to touch the apple, but just go right where your ambient occlusion is, meaning where your light does not exist. It does not exist. So respect that, okay? And I'm just going to go based off of, the values that you have here and the cast shadow you have already. Of course. But you just add that right underneath it. Just a little bit. And you're already going to see that it's going to give some sort of depth to it, right? And that's just going based off of the light source that you have already demonstrated. I'm not going to go ahead and fix, not fix, I shouldn't say that, but adjust your entire composition. Because overall, this is a really good apple. Like, you have this really nice green that's right here. Like, it really looks shiny and waxy. Like, I really like this reflective light that's happening here. It's all very well done. I think what I would want to see from you too is to challenge yourself, is to use other colors to contrast your lights and your darks rather than using black and white. Okay, because that's using tone, and tone or tinting is to lighten something just by white, and you're toning something down using black or gray. Okay, but what I want to see, just to challenge yourself, right, if you have the time, try doing this again, but using colors, other colors to contrast this apple rather than black and white. Okay, like, you can come in here and you see this like brown you have on the side here. You could easily place that in this apple, right, to give it some sort of contrast, as well as playing around with like greens and reds and complementaries and all that fun stuff. Like you really have your basic fundamentals down as far as what is supposed to belong. So challenge yourself a little bit. This is your time now and your I guess calling and gosh, what's the word? I'm just telling you to challenge yourself. That's it. But overall, this is very well done. I know that you said that you're trying to catch up with all the other homeworks. So keep posting them and I'll keep going over them, whether they are part of today's class or not, just to help you out. And if this was helpful to you, please let me know. Comments, questions, concerns, and feel free to jump in if that is what you'd like to do. And let me show mine. So mine, I mean, this is what I got done, right? I mean, I talked about it last time how much I hate teeth, so I didn't even really bother with the teeth. But overall, I guess I wanted to demonstrate, almost to completion. I think if I were to continue this, I would attack the teeth a little bit more. But I wanted to just show the simplicity of what teeth can be. And because I know teeth are they're kind of like fingers, but just there's 26 of them. So they're just little tiny nubs that are hanging off of your head. And there's 2 rows of them and they have to correlate with each other. But when it comes to shading them, a lot of what people do all the time, and I see it happen, and I even did it in my younger time, I would go in and of course I'm gonna be on the wrong layer. God dang it. One of these days, Kyle, it's gonna happen. All right, so usually what I would do is come from top and then bottom and just shade that in a pretty early stage. And then I would go in there, mark the teeth as rows, and then give the teeth some sort of, personality. Like some of them have like more curved edges, some of them are more straight, especially when you get to the front buck teeth. Those stand out more than any of the other teeth, really. So you'd make those a little more straight, but have some fun with it. Like especially when you get back to the molars, like those are pretty curved to when it comes towards the bottom edges of them. And then you'd come in with a whiter highlight and start just simplifying little tiny details of them. But don't worry about the teeth until it becomes like you're almost done with the image, because I know teeth look very intimidating and all that fun stuff, but they don't have to be, just like fundamentals. And that's why I'm here, to show that your fundamentals are supposed to tell you that art isn't so hard, as long as you take your fundamentals into account. So, with that being said, today we are learning about the paper method. This I learned about, probably around the same time as the Loomis method. I really delved into learning heads and faces pretty early on, because doing faces is probably one of my favorite things to do, especially female faces. So this was probably the most groundbreaking method to learning how to draw faces in any shape or form, as far as direction goes, because drawing faces head on, or even 3/4 panel, or even side panel is cool and all. But what happens when you really want to like use a more dynamic approach to it, meaning like tilting it all the way up, or tilting it all the way down, or having it like cocked to the side, like something, a little more dynamic than that. This is the best way to do it. And let's see here. So I am actually going to try and show an example just based off of here in person. If I can just grab some paper here. Okay. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for like 1 second. And I'm going to show, right? So I got this piece of paper here, and it's just one that I picked up. Okay. So if you think about this as a 2D image, right? So this is a 2D image. All right. But then when you think about a face, so if you look at my face and you see like it's bent and curved, it's got these almost cylinder type approaches to it. right? So if you take a piece of paper and you turn it from a 2D image to then a 3D image, now you have a front, side panel, you now have a full side view, and then you can tilt it up and down, and it's still going to have the same exact facial proportions that you need based off of just jawline, forehead, you know, everything around. And then from there, you can start to learn and be more concerned about the proportions that you're working with based off of the reference that you're using, if you are still using references for your portraits and everything like that, assuming. So I have that shown here. And, you know, thinking about thinking about faces in that way is actually pretty simplistic. And oh my gosh, like it's that simple. Well, absolutely. Yes, it is that simple. Okay. So I have it demonstrated here. If you just base your proportions, you know, eyes, nose, mouth in those thirds that we talked about last time, in this way, you're going to be able to make faces, you know, in a much more relaxed state. And at the same time, you're going to be able to, you know, do them faster and better, because it's best to worry about, especially in your earlier stages, in art purposes, not tattooing, to think about quantity over quality. Okay, so just, you know, if you focus on these earlier stages of this method, which we'll go over, and then concentrate later on actual details of a face, then that stage later on will be so much more relaxed. So I even have it demonstrated here with the 3/4 panel. Like you're already seeing here on the left-hand side that a face is, you're already seeing it. A face is already there. Okay, so these are the breadcrumbs that I was talking about last time. Leaving yourself breadcrumbs in these fundamentals so that later on you can just map out a face and not have to be concentrated on where are the eyes going to be, where's the nose going to be, where is mouth, oh my gosh, is the ear correct, is my jawline correct, oh my gosh, eyebrows and hairline. You don't have to worry about that. As long as you leave yourself these breadcrumbs along the way, you're just going to go and map it out. So our first step in doing that is to practice folded pieces of paper or paper in perspective. Okay, that's step one. Okay, so you can do this sitting on the couch. You can do this out with friends on a napkin. You can do this at any time. Just start drawing pieces of paper in different perspectives, you know, folded, straight on, elongated, you know, receding, having a receded line like the top right-hand corner. This is what you're going to be focusing on. And this is the atom-sized fundamental of this method. And then from here, you can go based off of your Loomis method with your thirds. So what's this first step of the Loomis method, right? Find your line of action, the center point of your face, okay? They all have it, okay? Obviously, if your paper is bent in half, you know, a side panel or even slightly a 3/4, you're gonna, you know, that's obviously your line of action. You don't necessarily have to draw that out. So once that is established, you can add in a nose, okay? And that nose is pretty much the island of where everything else is going to go. And well, here, how are we going to draw a nose in full plane? Well, I'm not telling you to draw like little cartoony noses here, guys. What I'm saying is to draw it in a little diamond shape. Simplify it for yourself. Make it easier. All you got to worry about is a little diamond. And that center point of that diamond is going to determine where your nose ends and then the bottom nostrils start. Because in every nose, and if you've seen portraits and whatnot, every nose has like that little bottom nostril point, and then even those two lines right below your nose, and right above where the mouth starts, you have those two lines. Okay, it's in almost every portrait you see or every face you see, it has those two lines, those divots to where it shapes the mouth. Okay, so that's all that diamond is telling you, but that's a lot of information that diamond is telling you already. And don't mind my cat, he has to announce every time he catches something. So and this way, if you just start with this step as well, after you get comfortable making pieces of paper, then applying these noses here, so if I get rid of the line of action, right, you can already see that it's starting to make a face in different perspectives in a more dynamic way. And you can tell from this one that's right here that when you make the diamond, you're obviously the person is looking down, so you're going to see way more of the nose. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to make a bottom part of that diamond because you're not going to see it. So you have to adjust that diamond portion based off of the, you know, the perspective that you have your piece of paper in, and that comes with practice. And I will say at the end who I learned this method from, because he's got a lot of cool, if you're into anatomy, he's got a lot of cool, quick, easy tips on faces, eyes, nose, all that fun anatomy stuff. So I'll list him later on. So after you got your nose established, now you can apply your eyes and your mouth. Okay. And I'm going to take myself off the screen share again, just to demonstrate on my own face. Okay. Here's an important rule. I'm going to take my glasses off. Okay. All right. So if you look at my face, right, when it comes to eyes and mouth, okay, the corners of your mouth always meet up with the center of your pupils. Always. Okay. So when you make your eyes, I sometimes draw my eyes as slits down, so it immediately makes that marker for where my mouth ends. Okay, and I'm gonna take my headphones off too to show my ears. So my ears, right? If you see the ears, they're mapping where my entire face is gonna sit. So if I look on the side of my ear, right, and I draw or basically show, it's gonna match up exactly, right? So we have my ear. And then where is it pointing? So it's the top of your eyebrow to the corner of your mouth. It all matches up, okay? And this is based off of that golden ratio that I was talking about last chapter. This correlates with it easily. So that 1 + 1 = 2, and it correlates that way. So those are just a couple simple tips of eyes and ears to help you map out with your paper method. But this is where you can go based off of the reference that you're going based off of. But if you were to go with, you know, just practicing this like in this fashion, that's a way to think about it as well. So as you can see, I made my eyes and my mouth, right? And it looks like a face. Oh my God, it's already starting to look like a face, and they're all different faces in different proportional ways, in different perspectives, in a more dynamic perspective, which is what we want. You know, when you learn to make faces, you don't want to just concentrate on, you know, frontal face, 3/4 panel, and side panel. You want to do all the cool, fun stuff. And then once we establish all of this is when we can start mapping out our proportions. And yes, all of my characters today are going to look scary, so don't mind me. Okay. They're going to look terrifying. Okay. They look like they belong on the mirror of Wizard of Oz. But the point being is that these are just the breadcrumbs. I'm trying to teach you to consistently make breadcrumbs for yourself, so that way you don't have to freak out like I did for years and years about where my proportions are going to be, where's my nose gonna sit? Like, where are my eyes gonna sit? Where's my mouth? Where's my ears? Hair? Like, all of that is extremely crazy to keep thinking about when you just take a deep breath and think about the bare fundamentals of it. Okay? So, as you can see on this face here, I drew in the bottom of the nose, you know, the bridge of the nose, the eyes, the eyebrows. Okay? And if I applied that to the rest of them, they would look something like this. If I took away my mapping, right? So of course, obviously all of these have to get adjusted a little bit, but this is just showing you the bare fundamental of what you're looking for. They all look like faces. They all look like they belong on somebody, and they all are in their respected dynamic perspectives. And obviously, once again, for this bottom one that's looking downward, you're not going to see a lot of the rest of the face depending on it. So really, I mean, if you really wanted to, you can draw in that mouth and that chin, but that's still going to follow your proportions that you have there. So this is your breadcrumbs, once again, on how you can build your faces up. Look at your faces, how you can see faces out in the world as now a bent piece of paper rather than anything else. So see here, I made some scary faces. I did. I started making these last night and I was like, good Lord. And then I saw them this morning and I was like, oh my geez. But overall, I mean, I think everybody gets the point of this as to what I'm trying to say here, you know. And if we think about it this way, another tip, when the ear ends is where your jawline is visibly starting, okay? So I know we worked on skulls last time and we're going to continue that whole skull thing, but this method really only kind of works with faces. I mean, I'm sure it can work with skulls in the same proportions, but as far as mapping out a face, this is the best way. So I have it shown here where your ear ends is where your jawline starts, and then you can map it out from there. I mean, yeah, this was pretty much, you know, pretty simplistic as far as how to draw faces in different angles. This way you can go based off of that Loomis method and this paper method to both correlate with each other. So you don't only have just one method to go by as far as drawing faces and skulls. This is now two methods that I'm showing you in 2 weeks on ways to make faces in different angles and have them be proportionately correct every single time. My whole advice on this is if you are first starting out, do not pass this first level of making pieces of paper until your pieces of paper look like pieces of paper bent in a proportionate way. Like this one that's sitting, of course I'm gonna be on the wrong layer. This one that's sitting right here, I'm not proportionately happy with. So I put that one there on purpose. It could be bent a little more. It could show the undercovers of the pieces of paper a little better. What I want to see happen first before you even start applying noses are these ones here. Like these ones that are sitting here are correct. They're very correct. And they look like what they're supposed to. And they're going to help you with your next step. Because you can't assume that you're going to, and this once again is for the people just starting out, you cannot expect yourself to continue on to the next step if you do not have step one down. Okay, it's just you're setting yourself up for failure, and that's something that is going to really hinder your career as an artist if you continue to do it that way. It's the same thing with the Loomis method. Do not continue on with your rendering of your skull if you can't even get the structuralization down of that process. But I feel like if you wanted to, you know, this method is a little bit more simpler as far as thinking and brainstorming your faces than the Loomis method, but the Loomis method is for accuracy. So it still applies with your rule of thirds. It still applies with where the side of the face is. So I'm not knocking either method. They each have their own avenues of which they play, but they can also hang out together. Okay, and I'm also going to teach you guys that these methods are going to be added to your tool belt, so that way one day you can just skip this whole first step and you can just make a face full blown and not even worry about the structuralization of it, because you already have practiced that structuralization so many times that you don't have to worry about that step. But you can't get to that point until you mastered step one. So give yourself that respect, give your art that respect, and give yourself that time to do it this way. With that said, I think for your assignment, we'll do a little bit more fun, a little bit more adventurous. You guys can pick a face, several faces, and render it using this paper method. If you want to do just a full frontal view of a face, that is perfectly fine. I'm cool with that. I think learning your proportions head on, frontal side with that piece of paper being flat, is a great way to start out. I don't think that you should start using any sort of dynamic or perspective structures until you have that sort of section done. But honestly, Kyle, I'm not too worried about you. You've got this kind of down. So
Thank you.
This is for people just starting out. And this doesn't have to be just your apprenticeship either. If you're just learning art just to learn art, this is still a great method. And if you want to write it down before I forget here, the YouTuber that I learned this method from, he also has a free brush set that I don't know which episode it's on, but he does have a brush set that you can download for Procreate. His YouTube is called Sinix, okay? Sinix, okay? He teaches very well about the fundamentals and really breaking down the simplistic forms of anatomy. But I also like the way he teaches it as well, because he's like me and second guesses, where he'll be drawing and he's like, these are horrible, but whatever. But he's very well spoken. He knows his stuff, and that's where I learned this method from. So if you want to learn more information on this method, hear it really be spoken by him, this is the way to do it. And this is his YouTube. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to copy what he's doing and teach it as my own, but I'm just relaying information that has worked for me in simplifying forms and making them fundamental, because this is what I'm here for. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind. So with that being said, hello, Kyle. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Today is going to be a very busy day. I have a tattoo to do soon, and then another one at 6. And then after that, I can kind of breathe a little bit, I think.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's very steamy here today. It's gonna be in the 90s and pure humid. And at the same time, our air quality is not great from the wildfires, which is what I was gonna ask you about. How you doing?
I haven't, just in my immediate area, I haven't really seen any. I think they're more so inwards towards more center California.
Mm-hmm.
But down here where I'm at, I haven't really encountered much.
Yeah, it's been weird the past couple of weeks. We've been getting like, I don't know if you watch Star Wars. I always bring up Star Wars. It's like being on Tatooine, where it's just like this one haze over the sun, and then the sun just looks like one orange circle
Oh,
the
yeah.
entire time. And my roommate was mentioning it. She's like, "Wow, the clouds are moving so fast." I was like, "Those aren't clouds, sweetie. That is smoke from the wildfire." She's like, "Oh my gosh." But yeah, we've been getting the air quality here has been pretty bad. I don't know why it's hitting us bad. We're all the way on the opposite side of the
Right.
country. But our state has even asked us to start like wearing masks to protect our mouths and our breathing, keep all our doors and windows closed, and there's been dust everywhere.
Yeah. I know like 2 years ago when there was like those huge record wildfires out here in California. I remember there's like a large hill that's like at the end of my city, and like you could see the fire coming down that hill.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was crazy.
Oh, that's yeah. I see. I was excited for you to come on because I was going to ask how you were doing if you had seen anything, but I'm glad that it's not really in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yes, thankfully. So I'm actually going to use Cynic's set just to show his stuff here. He's got a couple cool ones. He mostly draws his stuff with this scratch board, which I think is actually pretty cool. Like it's like your average technical pen, but it's very well. I like it. He has this one here, but I have it in my brush here. Where's the thick to thin? I like this one a lot when I'm really doing like a tattoo outline and I want something that has like a 14 round liner sized quarter thick ass border. I'll use this one for it. But he's got a great set, great teacher. Once again, if you're watching this, Cynics, I love you, buddy. But I will not be using that one. We'll use our HB pencil, which is his as well. And I'm going to start really mapping out. I'm going to use the paper method just to, not be that teacher that doesn't use her own method. And I'll use it in every step of the way. How's that method resonating with you, Kyle? Is that working with you a little better?
Yeah, it's doing its thing. It's it's another wonderful trick to kind of help lay them in.
Yeah, when it was taught in that manner, it kind of was just a eye-opening type ordeal. When it was like, oh, okay. And I know I mentioned this a bunch of times. I was that apprentice that would fight the fundamentals. My mentor would say for the entire duration of my apprenticeship that how important my fundamentals were. And I'm sure whoever had watched my podcast with Amy on the Apprenticeship Diaries, I talked about how I didn't even know how to draw at all when I started my apprenticeship. Like I couldn't even draw a simple sphere in the correct lighting without it being incorrect, and what is this, like this isn't a sphere at all.
Yeah.
The shading was very inconsistent. It would have bumps all over it and just not good. So my mentor really got it into me that how important the fundamentals are, and I fought it for years, and it was probably like a good year or two before I even started doing fundamentals. And the fundamentals I've learned isn't for just the artist that is just starting. It's for everybody. Sometimes now when I really am not understanding a composition, I'll go back to the fundamentals of it. So don't fight the fundamentals, and the fundamentals do not mean that you're a bad artist or that you're a childlike artist. It's all something that has to happen. It's a process that has to begin with everybody. And that's just because I was, lame and a fighter. I just wanted to be a cool tattoo artist, day one.
Yeah, when I first heard that though, it was very inspiring to hear, because like seeing your work now, I never would have guessed that, 2-3 years ago that you did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I knew absolutely nothing. And I'm grateful that my mentor was as patient as he was with me to continue to fight with me and for the better of my knowledge. And you know, I've said this many times of I asked him all the time, hey, like, when am I gonna be good? When am I gonna start to understand stuff? When is my, because it happens with everybody, and I know you can understand this as well, Kyle,
Mhm.
that in the very, very, very beginning stages of your art, where you're just like, yeah, I want to be an artist, let's start this. Your work is always atrocious. Like every single day, it's atrocious.
Absolutely.
And you're just sitting there watching everybody else and their work be absolutely killer, and you keep begging the universe of like, when am I gonna have that? When is it gonna happen? And I've said this many, many times. It is the truth of the matter that, you know, one day you're just gonna wake up and you're gonna sit down and do your work like you do every single day, and it's just gonna happen. You're just gonna start making compositions that are actually gonna be formidable. Um, and unfortunately, that is the only advice I can give in that matter. So if you're out there and you're questioning, when am I going to find my style? When is, you know, the light of God going to touch me with my art? Well, it'll happen, but it's going to take time, and it's going to um, take patience, lots and lots of patience. Um, but I'm sure you can understand that, Kyle, as well.
Yeah, when I first started doing art classes at my community college, it was like very hard to slow down and start doing the basic stuff. But then once you do, it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, like you're as an artist, that's the last thing you want to do, because, you know, I feel like for every artist, especially tattooers, you have these compositions that are just living inside your head and begging to come out onto whatever canvas or paper that you have. So, you know, when you are wanting to do this composition that you know you really probably shouldn't be doing, or you really do not have the skills yet to do, um, you you start to get down on yourself, and you know, start to feel it because you have it in your head and you want it out, but you can't even do a sphere.
Yeah.
So it all starts with that, and then you start getting frustrated at whoever keeps telling you, what do you mean I have to do a sphere? I i have this really cool composition in my head. What do you mean I have to start there? And having the idea in your head and actually being able um, to what's the word, follow through with it, they're two completely different things, and that took me a long time to learn. So if I can stop somebody now from going through that suffering stage of, you know, self-doubt and regret, and when will it be my turn, that's all I'm going to care about out of this. Ugh. And thank God for Procreate, because it makes portraits way more fun.
Absolutely.
Um, but if you really do love portraits, I will say, and I said it last class, do it with big pens. Not so much the paper method, but once you start actually understanding proportions and everything, I am requiring you do it with big pens. As some, I forgot who it was on Reinventing called it pentings, and I think that's hilarious. I think that's a great name for it. Also, when I do portraits, I do the pupils absolutely last, because that is all you're going to concentrate on, I promise. Because as soon as you add a pupil, and this was, you know, Ricardo has said this, and my mentor has said this as well. Once you start, like, once you put a pupil in, then it's alive. Then that person that you're drawing is now has life to them. So don't put it in there until you're ready to give them life, like Frankenstein. And as everybody can tell in this stage, I'm just kind of scumbling about my proportions, and then I'll go on to a different layer and kind of clean it up. But I'm just demonstrating this method here in this way. And I kind of don't like the way her chin is sitting. We'll sit that there. Question, Kyle. Do you prefer, I know this might be a little early to ask this question, do you prefer this method or the Loomis method a little better?
Maybe more like probably the Loomis, maybe. I'm not sure. just because that one's a little bit easier to kind of block everything in. Like this is really good for doing like just solely the face.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would do like this on top of the Loomis.
Yeah, they're definitely good to do together. The paper method, I think, in my opinion, is more for um, understanding the way that you should be thinking about faces, uh, as simplistic as possible, and getting your brain used to the simplicity of everything in art. It's not supposed to be super difficult. It's supposed to be challenging. You should be challenging yourself all the time when it comes to art. But what you shouldn't be doing is freaking yourself out every 2 seconds over
Yeah.
it. And when that does happen, and I've done this many times, that's why a couple of my pieces are not done, including the Star Wars one that is behind me. They're not done because it gets to a point where you're going 5 steps forward and 6 steps backwards because you're not making decisions, you're just guessing. And it comes to that decision of, okay, well, it seems to me that I'm not skillfully ready for the next step of this. I got this painting to a point where I could, and now it's time to study until I can get back into it, which is fine. Like, that's respectful. You're respecting your artwork, and that's all you really need to do in that matter is respect your artwork. And I'm adding in my values a little too soon, but I'm trying to calm myself here with the proportions that I have laid out, because I'm not 100% loving it, but we're kind of rushing too. And think about your we should be I know, right? We should be going over at some point the planes of the face, because that is important for understanding values and where to place them, but that's like its own holy shit chapter. So if Guy continues this value study, then or not this value study, this anatomy, then we are gonna do planes of the face next, I think, because that needs to be its own chapter, realistically. But other than that, yeah, I'm sorry if my work today is not as best as it usually is, because I am trying to get as much done as I can for you guys. But Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Just trying my best to make sense of a face.
It is confusing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's like its own animal.
And then it just reaches this point where you're like, oh, okay, now it does look like a face.
Absolutely. There's this tattoo artist's name is Valentina. She has said before in one of her videos that she purposefully makes her portraits scary until the very end. So I think that's quite funny, because it does. Portraits look scary until the absolute very end.
Yeah.
Until you start adding in actual value and everything, and then it starts to, oh wow, look, it's a face kind of thing. But we are here at this point. Let's see. All right, I got like 5 minutes left here, and then I do have to very much skedoodle. I told my client to come in early so that I can make sure I have enough time for him. I'm doing this sword coming out of dirt-esque thing.
Oh.
Yeah. I had to try and make it fit within a time frame. So we're gonna make sure we get this done for him. I think this cheekbone, all of this needs to get played with. I might redo the whole thing, it's whatever. Let's see, the neck is coming out here. That way. faces are so hard. Sometimes I see other portrait artists and I'm like, good Lord, look at you go. So, but I hope to be very well at portraits one day. Well, that takes a lot of patience. A lot of patience and time. And it's kind of very alarming when you do a tattoo or portrait because it's usually of a loved one of some sort. And usually at that point, you know, you got to make it look like that person. And if one little value is off, it's not going to look like that person. And they're going to be very upset.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to pretty much stop here because if I continue with how fast I'm going, it's really going to turn into a mess. So what I'm going to do actually is take a flat brush because flat brushes are the way of life. Just, oh wow, that's blocking some value here. But I have a feeling I'm going to be redoing this whole thing. And all right, we're going to stop here because we're making a mess. All right, so let's adventure. So this, I know it looks like a scary portrait. I know, but the point of it was just to see the transition from paper method into said portrait. That's literally it. I will have the finished rendition next time. So if you're like, wow, what am I learning from this chick? Well, tune in next time. And you'll see it finished and look much better than what it looks like now. But with that, let me check out yours, Kyle, because I see you. I hear you tapping away very aggressively.
Oh, it's very frightening.
And let me see if I can spotlight you. The thing that sucks about Google Chromes is that I can't spotlight people on it, but what I can do, and it's getting very hot in my house. It says something when you have the AC blasting and it's still very hot in your house.
Agree.
Let me see.
Oh, only the host can share.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
No problem. But yeah, I hate the heat myself, and like I have the fan just right above me blasting down all day and it's still too hot.
Oh, California heat is something else. Listen, when I went down to Miami, I was complaining the entire time. It was so hot.
It's terrible.
And I am very much paper white, so I could feel my skin burning the entire
Yeah, me as well. I literally can't even go for a walk outside without my skin just burning.
Yeah, we had the boys, you know, thankfully, I love them to death. They got me umbrellas at the beach because my little Irish ass would turn into a lobster real quick. But let me do this. Let's make you a host. Let's get you shared. See if I can help you out with a couple of things if needed. And then we'll do our final goodbyes.
How was Miami?
Oh, I needed it, man. I really needed it. I was expecting to do a lot of work, but really it was a lot of napping. And
That's good to hear, though.
It was great. I loved it. Let's see here. I like how you have your stuff in folders too, because
I like to keep it organized. Very frightening, but it's a start.
All right. Cool. Yes. Can you get rid of the reference? I want to see one on the top corner there.
That one's a little bit nicer.
Okay. All right. So what I wouldn't do is apply your sphere within that paper.
Gotcha.
It's gonna confuse the crap out of you. So think of that entire page of paper. That's your entire face from top to bottom. So you don't necessarily need to put that sphere in there to indicate the head or the cranium because that paper is already indicating it for you.
Okay.
Okay. So the bend of the paper backwards is showing you where it's going to go from, facing the direction of the camera to where it's now folding over.
Mhm.
So now that's the entire plane of the face. So the only thing that you really need to take into account is the top of the hairline and the jawline on the bottom. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe that'll help you a little bit, but you're doing very well. I'm gonna do what Jesus Christ, Guy Atkinson says, and make your portrait bigger. Working that small in a portrait, horrible. You're just setting yourself up for failure. That way, you can really play with the shapes of your reference, like the eyes and the nose and the mouth, which is
Mhm.
what this paper method is supposed to help you concentrate on to begin with, is only focusing on your proportions of the center of the face, which is your eyes, nose, mouth, and obviously eyes or eyebrows. But other than that, fantastic job. Everything is correctly in its proportion. The ears look great, nose looks great, eyes look great. May I see the reference again one more time?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, let me see. Yeah, so absolutely. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Good job. Completely finish this. Do a couple of them if you have time, and post it up, and we'll talk a little bit more about it next time.
Absolutely.
Next week we're going to be doing let me spotlight myself here. Of course I can't do it on this computer. I have to borrow my best friend's computer because my Google Chrome really doesn't do jack for me. It's horrible.
You know what I've noticed real fast when looking at one of those Chromebooks, it's very limiting.
Yeah, it is. So am I spotlighted, Kyle?
You are not.
I'm not. Okay, hold on. Perfect. Let's try this again. All right, there we go. All right, so next week we're going to be focusing on the eyes, nose, and mouth specifically. That's the only reason why I didn't really get into it this time, because this time was really just focusing on placing them correctly. These last 2 weeks, we've only been placing them correctly on purpose. So that way, this next week, we're going to just be focusing on the shapes of each item, because they come in all different shapes and sizes, all different proportions, but they all still have their same basic fundamental shapes. So if you're really curious about that, make sure you tune in next week. The dates and time of this show may change again for the last and final time, just to ensure that I have a lot of more time for you guys. But that's nothing official yet. But I will make a post before the next one's out if that is the case. So just keep an eye out for that. If you want to figure out how to keep an eye on that, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Frankie Says Things, as well on Reinventing the Tattoo at Frankie Tattoos Things. You can message me with any comments, questions, or concerns that you have. People that did message me within the last couple of days, I will be getting back to you by the end of today. It's been a pretty busy last couple of days for me, so please bear with me. But I did see them, and I am and will write back to you. Other than that, I do have to skadoodle daddle. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Kyle, once again. Your work is really improving amazingly. So I can't wait to see what this next chapter is going to bring for you. Thank you so much for joining me, so I don't have to talk to myself.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you so much for Reinventing the Tattoo. Thank you, Sandy, Guy, Lauren, Gabe. All you guys have done so much for me. Thank you guys for working with me and allowing me to do such amazing things like this. Thank you to the Horsemen for inspiring me every day and helping me out through every single time that I decide to burn out from overwork. And with that being said, thank you guys so much. I don't know who my host is. I am. Okay. Goodbye, guys, and have a wonderful day. Bye.